Welcome everybody, and allow me to introduce our next speaker presentation, and welcome to the platform from GenX Power, the General Manager for Development and Construction, Ben Williams. The Bulli Creek Clean Energy Project is a multi-stage development project of up to 4 gigawatt of large-scale BESS and solar PV. The project is proposed to be developed in 5 stages, including substages. Ben is the General Manager, Development and Construction for GenX Power. Ben has over 13 years in renewable energy experience, working from project development and sales through to construction and operations. Please welcome Ben.
Thank you very much for that, Nicola. Appreciate the introduction. I'll just share my screen. Okay, so yes, as Nicola just said, I'm the Development and Construction General Manager for GenX Power, and here to talk today about the Bulli Creek Clean Energy Project. Before doing that, though, I'll just give you a quick rundown on GenX. So we are a renewable energy generation and storage project developer. We work across batteries, pump storage, hydro, wind and solar, with our portfolio currently spread across Queensland and New South Wales. As of Friday last week, we were able to increase our number of projects in operation from 100 to 150 megawatts. That leaves us with 250 megawatts under construction. And we do have a development pipeline of 2.25 gigawatts, 2 of those gigawatts relating to this Bulli Creek energy project. So with that sort of portfolio, although we don't look to lead in terms of a capacity point of view, in terms of leading this transition to a clean energy future, the projects that we do take on are quite innovative and sort of add quite an interesting mix to the NEM. And here is how we do that. So the first sort of cab off the rank, I guess, was the 50 megawatt Kidston solar project. Now, GenX was effectively founded around the Kidston Pump Storage Hydro project, which is co-located with that solar project. And whilst sort of investigating that project, the irradiance, the solar resource out of that project was quite favourable. So very quickly, that project was developed and constructed and has been operating for a few years. That pumped hydro project is our flagship project that is well into the construction. Recently sort of concluding significant underground tunnelling milestones, and toward the end of next year that project will be commissioned and energised. At the same spot, we also have a wind farm in development, 258 megawatt project, and we also have the potential to add further solar to that clean energy hub. So moving a bit further south towards Rockhampton, that blue dot there, we have the Boulder Cone battery project. That's a 50 megawatt 2-hour battery that has now just entered into the operating phase. And then south of that, not too far from Toowoomba, we have this Bulli Creek Clean Energy Project. So quite a bit of solar, quite a bit of battery, and a multi-stage development project. And then to top it all off, we have our 50 megawatt Gemmelong solar project, which is operating in New South Wales. So the time frame for those construction and development projects is on the slide here, and you can see a lot of concurrent construction not too far away. So we, as stated before, the Boulder Cone battery, that's now in the operations phase. The pumped hydro project remains under construction until the end of next year. And then just before that, we'll actually be adding our wind and stage 1 of the Bulli Creek project, the Bulli Creek Solar project, into the construction portfolio. About a year after that, we'll add the first battery portion of the Bulli Creek projects, meaning that we'll have 3 projects under construction at once. So that's quite a portfolio, and what that means is we'll be contributing quite a few new megawatts into the grid, in the Queensland grid. And also we'll need a lot of people to help contribute those megawatts to that grid. So we're definitely sort of one of the key contributors to the big ambitious targets of the Queensland government, who are targeting 80% renewables by the end of 2035, and quite a substantial number of jobs being created to achieve that target as well. So we created 900 jobs for the Kidston Hydro project, and towards the end of this presentation, I'll take you through sort of number of jobs and the type of work that we'll be looking for for the Bulli Creek Clean Energy Project as well. That ties in well with the way the approach that we take with our people, with the communities that we operate in, and the environment in which we build these projects as well. So the people is sort of first and foremost for us, not just GenX employees, but the contractors that we work with, the subcontractors they work with, and the people in the communities surrounding the projects, with particular focus with the local heritage groups for the projects to make sure they are engaged well in the development phase and all throughout construction and operations as well. And we don't want to sort of contribute all these megawatts with a sacrifice to the environment, of course. So we do want to focus on minimizing the disturbance that we have to flora and fauna for the projects that we're developing, constructing, and operating. So that leads us into the Bulli Creek Solar Project. So this first stage, we're actually looking at up to 775 megawatts. Now, for those who are familiar with the terminology, that is the AC grid connection capacity. That means the sort of solar panel DC capacity will be somewhere between 900 megawatts and up to a gigawatt of DC capacity. As I mentioned before, that project's located quite close to Toowoomba. It's about 100 kilometres southwest, or a 20-25 minute drive from the township of Millmerran. So that 775 meg, that would be the largest grid connected solar farm in Australia. So quite substantial size. And what has sort of underpinned the sort of late stage development of that project is the recent announcement of a 25-year power purchase agreement with Fortescue. So they're looking for 337.5 megawatts. What that does is confirms a minimum of 450 megawatts for this project, but we do have offtake discussions continuing to put us up to that 775 megawatts for the first stage. Because we are in the late stage development, we've sort of had to ramp up the procurement for our EPC contractor, so the main contractor that will build the majority of the solar farm. And we are in the final stages of that and hope to announce the selection of them shortly. It's quite an interesting project. We actually have the Queensland New South Wales interconnector running straight through the middle of the project. What that means is it's a very strong grid connection point for the project. That's what allows the project to be so big. And then when we acquired the project just over a year ago, the project already had all planning, all cultural heritage, and all environmental approvals in place. So we're well placed to meet our timing of construction toward the end of next year. So adding a lot of renewables into the energy mix does mean that we need sort of storage to back up the intermittent generation of solar farms and wind farms. So what we're doing with this project is leveraging the knowledge that we've undertaken through the development and construction of the Boulder Combe battery project and the development and construction of the Kidston Pump Storage Hydro project. They work hand in hand, storage and renewables, and can be quite helpful in supporting the grid, ensuring that we have power supply during those sort of intermittent phases of solar and wind energy. So that's why we're quite interested in adding a battery to the Bulli Creek energy project, and that's what we're calling stage 2 of the project. So we're looking at about a 400 megawatt 4-hour battery, so that's that 1600 megawatt hours there. And we'll have subsequent stages after that for solar and BESS, and just adding further solar sort of benefits us. Well, we will benefit from the further addition of batteries as well. These battery projects, these battery stages are co-located with the solar. It's not a hybrid project, but they are in the same area, so it means the same development approvals, the same land, all sort of processes and approvals apply to both projects. So we've already kicked off the procurement process for this stage 2 Bulli Creek BESS in this quarter of this year, and we'll be progressing that throughout next year as well. So Bulli Creek's had quite a journey. You can see there from the time frame that it was just over 10 years ago that development actually commenced at the project. So talking to the locals, they're very familiar with the project and very keen to see it get into the construction phase later in 2024. So it didn't take too long for the development and the federal EPBC approvals to be granted for the project. And then, Genex acquired that project in August of 2022, and since then we've been procuring, running tender processes, procuring offtake for the project, and that puts us in the position we are today. So a year after that acquisition, we did announce that we had a joint development agreement with J-Power, so locking in a partnership that Genex and J-Power has had over a number of years and continues to have through other projects as well. And in October, we announced the Fortescue offtake, which I mentioned earlier. So really underpinning the project and pushing us through to that targeted final investment decision at the end of next year. 1 year later, same thing for the battery project as well. So like I showed in the project time frame slides earlier, we'll have both projects under construction, not starting at the same time, but they will have concurrent stages of construction. That will have both projects completed 2027, 2028 and generating energy into the grid. So in terms of procurement and job opportunities, each stage has its own sort of packages that will be available for people to participate in. And once we announce exactly who will be sort of leading from a contracting point of view, we'll be holding various sort of information sessions and making information available to allow anyone really to contact those contractors to see where those packages could work. And you can see on the right there that we're looking at a workers camp as well. So I'll go through the detail of that shortly. So for stage one, there's going to be quite a lot of work in relation to sort of low voltage electrical work, high voltage work as well. Plenty of fencing, perimeter fence of a 775 megawatt solar farm is going to be quite large. Concrete for not just the construction of the solar farm and its sort of high voltage electrical work, but Powerlink and their sort of connection assets will also need quite a bit of concrete work there as well. A bit of earthworks to do, not too much in the grand scheme of things for a solar project, but still some work to be done. And there will be plenty of labour opportunities as well for the installation of trackers and piles and panels to get the solar farm connected into the substations. So at the moment, we're predicting that we'll have up to 600 people to work on this project alone. That will sort of follow a bell curve kind of scale over about a 3-year period when we sort of kick off next year. That 600 people estimate does include the people required for Powerlink's construction of connection assets as well. So we're looking at a sort of maximum of 600. So those packages should start becoming available toward the end of next year. And like I said, we'll be holding sort of information sessions well before then, once we have locked in our EPC contractor for the solar farm. So on to stage two with the battery, much smaller footprint as you can imagine with a battery. It's still quite a sizable battery at 400 meg 4 hours, needs quite a footprint. But there won't be as many people needed for the construction phase of that. It is similar type of work, just at a sort of different scale. So we're looking at about 150 people to work on that project. It does have a shorter time frame as well, as highlighted in that project time frame slide I showed earlier. And that'll be sort of a year after the solar farm, where we look to announce contractors and suppliers that we're working with, and they'll be sort of looking for procurement and job package support in about the end of 2025. The workers camp, though, is needed for both projects, so that workers camp will be in operation for some time, and especially when future stages of solar and battery come on. But we do need to construct the camp in the first instance, so that there'll be various opportunities in relation to concrete, lighting, procurement of kitchen equipment. There'll be sort of multiple other packages of supply needed to make that camp sort of operational for up to 600 people. And then once it's in operations, we need to have cooks, cleaners, various other sort of work packages associated with the operations and maintenance of that camp. So there could be up to 80 people needed to construct the camp, and at various stages throughout the operations of that camp, up to 25 people as well. So that the work packages for that will actually kick off a little bit earlier. We want to start the construction of the workers' camp pretty much on day one that we start the sort of design and other activities for the solar farm, so that the camp is available once we hit the ground and start construction of the Bulli Creek Stage 1 project. So you can see down the bottom right there, we've got our email address, info@genexpower.com.au. In the absence of sort of pre-selected contractors and you know, in advance of any sort of community or information sessions that we run, you are welcome to send any details or any questions you have through to that email address in relation to these projects. That wraps up the presentation, so I hope that has been quite informative, and I'm available to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Ben. It's been quite the journey for Bulli Creek so far, and still a ways to go.
That's correct. Yes, we've got lots of a little bit of development work to go, but yeah, lots of construction, and then you know these projects will be operating for up to 30 years and potentially longer.
In the future, does the project have any level of hybrid capabilities to perhaps connect to hydrogen powering?
It depends how you define hybrid. So effectively, if a hydrogen project came along and connected into the grid, then yes, we're effectively sort of powering that on. But plugging hydrogen sort of behind the meter, so to speak, into a project like this, it, I wouldn't rule it out, I guess, but definitely, you know, contributing these extra electrons, you know, 775 megawatts from stage one alone, you know, we'll be up to 2 gigawatts when we're at least 2 gigawatts when we're you know, all stages are completed. That's a significant contribution to quite a large sort of hydrogen industry that's predicted to come.
Absolutely. And how are you helping our local community build skill sets to maintain that local engagement and employment opportunities through the duration of the construction phases?
So over that development timeframe prior to the acquisition by Genex of the project, there has been sort of engagement with the community in Millmerran, in Toowoomba, to ensure that yeah, everyone is aware that this project is coming and the type of work package that will be available. Now that we're in this later stage, and we are not far away from announcing our sort of main contractor, who will have the majority of ability for sort of work opportunities, we will be holding information sessions in Millmerran. We'll have information available on our website, on their website, and potentially through third parties as needed to make sure that people are aware of it. And just being aware and informed on what is possible means that we can start talking through how we can help further if there is any sort of skill shortages or anything like that. So we do aim to do that quite early next year, potentially announcing the contractor before the end of this year, but early next year we'll be holding information sessions and yeah, seeing how we can contribute further rather than just job opportunities as well. And what we want to do is we definitely want to contribute economically to the township of Millmerran and other surrounding communities, of course. But also not creating a nuisance in a way as well, because there will be lots of people. 600 people is a lot of people to introduce into a township of Millmerran. So we have been engaging with stakeholders locally in Millmerran and in Toowoomba to make sure that we are coming in and contributing well without the downside of the additional people.
What are the largest challenges you have in as far as that impact on community and environment through these stages of construction?
Uh, I guess the challenge we will have firstly is actually getting the right number of people. So yes, this is one of the largest projects, but there are a lot of large projects out there in construction, in development, in operations as well. So just getting the people available to meet the sort of timeframes that we have is probably one of the biggest hurdles that we have. And one of the other hurdles we have is, of course, accommodating those people, mitigated by, of course, the construction of the camp itself. So that's not the ideal situation. You would ideally like to have all 600 sort of within sort of local communities and things like that. This project is a little bit remote, so that would sort of not really comply with various safety policies in terms of travel times and stand down times and things like that. So the camp obviously mitigates that a lot. Now we've just got to find 600 people within the portfolio of renewables that are under construction. And it's not just renewables as well. We're, of course, competing with infrastructure projects as well. So I would say that is certainly the biggest challenge we have.
I think it can be one of the biggest challenges on large scale projects like this. I mean, obviously, you're well engaged with the local community in Millmerran, and these projects do bring a lot of money into small regional areas and sort of boost them up. How do you manage the process of, I suppose, commissioning phase and beyond construction to minimise a negative impact on the town that's effectively sort of coming alive again, feeding off the infrastructure that construction brings?
Yeah, so construction is a vastly different scenario compared to the operations phase of all renewable technologies. Typically, it's in the grand scale of things that you're effectively constructing for less than 10% of the time that the project operates for. So it is a different approach that you need to take, and I guess sort of the way to approach that is there's a couple of ways to approach it, I guess. One being that early engagement and sort of notification of what the operations phase looks like. So yes, we'll be holding information sessions for the construction early next year, but we'll also touch on the operations phase as well. And it's because Millmerran is sort of big enough itself for the operations phase of this project, it's very likely that the camp will no longer be around for the operation. That means people are in houses, and houses are being built potentially for these people, and they live in Millmerran rather than sort of flying in, flying out, driving out for this camp. In addition to that, now that we're sort of quite certain of the timing that we're delivering the project under, we're getting some third-party support to help us with a sort of community engagement program, not just during construction, but beyond that as well, exploring the use of community grants and other sort of scholarships and any other options that we have. And we hope to present them sort of halfway through next year as well, and giving sort of everyone an understanding of how they can watch that space and engage in those activities once we confirm what they are and the value of them as well.
Fantastic. And information as it becomes available will be on your project website, of course.
That's correct, yeah. So our genexpower.com.au does have project information. We'll soon be adding sort of information sheets and flyers up there for each of the projects, and we'll look to sort of engage much further than just our website when we do have information sessions with local papers and other sort of methods of advertising to ensure that everyone is aware of what we're doing and when it's coming.
Fantastic. And Ben, you'll be heading over to the booth now, should anybody want some more information or have a question in relation to Bulli Creek.
Yes, correct. I will be in the booth very shortly. So happy to answer
Wonderful.
any further questions.
And there is a fact sheet available too in the handout section for the delegation to download, of course.
Correct.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank
If
you.
you'd like to engage with Ben and the team from GenX Power and talk more about Bulli Creek Clean Energy Project, head over to booths, go to GenX Power and hit the wait room, and you'll be able to speak to the team. Ben, thank you so much. Very exciting project.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you.